I'm Eric Barnes with the Daily Memphian, and welcome to The Sidebar, a weekly show on the community, arts, culture, and more. Today we're talking to folks from CodeCrew, so stay with us for a conversation about CodeCrew. Ashley Weaver, Director of Development at CodeCrew, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Along with Francois Mahoro, who is Director of K through 12 programs.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
I was so excited that I pronounced your name right that I actually paused for applause. Somehow I was going to get through that, so that's on me.
So you get applause, yes.
And the joke is, and we were talking about it before, because I can't do names. I can't do the most basic of names, and yours is not even that hard. But anyway, thank you both for being here. Who wants to start? CodeCrew just had its 10th anniversary, which makes me feel a little old because I can remember when you all launched. But for those who don't know, what is CodeCrew? I'll start with you.
Sure, I'll take a stab at it. But
Yeah.
CodeCrew has been around since 2015, and our main focus is computer science education for K through 12. We have a code school as well. We have young adults to get the opportunity to be software engineer. But also we have another opportunity to work with teachers from professional development as well. But we really are in the grounds of here in Memphis, Tennessee to provide the resources for underrepresented students. And then for us, that's really what we enjoy to do, is to mentor and make sure people and students here in Memphis get the opportunity.
And you reached, I was just on your website, you've reached 15,000 students, something like that?
Oh, yeah,
more
actually,
in the 10 years?
Yes, it's actually way more now.
Okay.
Just because we service, again, Shelby County School students. We got charter school system, but we have students that come from all over, especially in our summer camp. But we get to have students come from not just Memphis, but even the surrounding areas as well.
And what grades, give or take? I mean, is it all grades that you're working with?
K-12, yes. So K-12 is literally K through 12. And like I mentioned, we have also an adult school, which anybody from 18 plus that go through a software development process to be full-time software engineer. And again, we also impact students from a teacher professional development standpoint as well.
John is being modest though, because he started at CodeCrew as a volunteer, which I think is just so incredible.
Sure,
That's amazing.
Yeah, so quickly for me, my passion was always software engineer. So I come from the tech background as well. But education was something that was always really interesting, even from early years. I used to tutor, I used to do all these things. But when CodeCrew came about, I made contact with, first of all, I met Meke Wekwe, which is one of the co-founders. And he told me about his vision about bringing an organization that would service the students and the people here in Memphis. And he told me that, if he has an opportunity, he would love for me to join the team. And I didn't think twice. So 2015, I was a volunteer, but 2017 I became a full-time.
Yeah.
So that's how I've been here.
Yeah. And Ashley, how did you get involved? How long have you been with CodeCrew?
So I started it last September.
Okay.
And quickly fell in love.
Yeah.
Drank the Kool-Aid. And even though I'm one of very few non-tech people, like I said, I'm all in. I'm all in.
Yeah. One of the things I think that's interesting about coding. So my son is a software engineer. He's now about to be 27 and loved computers from a very young age. He just always wanted to be with computers. And then once he could code and just the simple things they would do in grade school, and he just was drawn to it, and he always wanted to be a coder. I played around with code, back 100 years ago when I was in, high school and still play more in computers than people. There's some surprise because I do mostly, they see me doing interviews and editorial stuff, but spreadsheets, and there's a tiny bit of coding in my life. One of the things, but mostly now through my son, is how creative it is. And I think that's super surprising because you think of somebody head down, lots of numbers, a lot of code, adding up. It's foreign to people who don't code, but there's an immense amount of creativity to it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's the misconception about what computer science or what software engineering is. I call them almost like the wizards of our time because you really have to think about critically problem solving. So you get to remove yourself from the screen, as you just mentioned, but you really got to drive the solution to make sure on an impact scale, it's going to impact many people. So you really have to know from a creativity standpoint on how to solve those things.
It's also an amazing thing, and I can remember this again from a million years ago when I was in high school, and you'd be coding, and we were in BASIC or Pascal. I mean, all very rudimentary stuff. But when you got something to work, it was, there's little that is that big a deal of going, oh my God, it worked. Even if it just printed a screen of characters or it made a simple shape. that sense that I wrote this code that executed and did a thing successfully.
Right.
And you must see that with the kids at all ages.
Right, exactly. So even so there's a thing called Hello World program, which is like interview programming from the starting of days. You always do that. Like you say, just something simple as Hello World, it's a big deal. But when we see students get the opportunity to do something like that, they say, you know what? I can do it. And it's flashing across the screen, whether it's through the VRs that we use, the robotics. So there's things where kids get to tangibly touch things, and they made it happen. And I think that's why I want them to be able to focus on that as well.
You can see their confidence build too as things start working and unlocking,
right,
and the problem solving and digging in. It's pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, it's not. Again, I've not seen your classes, but I can envision it. And again, my son and my daughter were in programming classes when they were much littler. It's not head in a black screen with your headphones on. I mean, there's a certain element of coding that is maybe what you see in movies, but there's more participation, I would assume. There's more people working on projects together, and there's a kind of fun outcome because you see these things work or not work, or work in ways they didn't expect, unexpected features and so on.
Yeah, what's really cool too is they have cub coders. We have cub coders, and they're not even on computers, which I didn't understand that, but they're moving actual blocks around and cards around to train the brain at a young age before you're introducing a screen on how computing works, which is...
Yeah. And I'll remind everyone we're here with Ashley Weaver. She's Director of Development at CodeCrew, and Jean-Francois Mahoro, who's Director of K-12 Programs for CodeCrew. For parents who listen or people who listen and think, well, this is just more screen time. I didn't experience it that way, but I don't know what your response to that is. Maybe for you, Jean.
Right. So, I mean, even on a personal note, I have young ones as well. I'm soon to be 5-year-old, have twins. So, yeah, I will say that's something that's always considered. But here's the thing about creativity, right? So it's not just, so it's the thing that you do mindlessly that creates the screen time. But what we preach here at CodeCrew is to be the creators and the technology that we use, so you get to understand that from, hey, I create things rather than consuming things. So then you start to change the outcome of how you view this thing about screen time. So we definitely are mindful of that, but for parents, I always tell them, you have to understand that this is more from a creation standpoint rather than just mindlessly just going through the motion, watching YouTube, but you're actually using your brain to be able to problem solve and think creatively. Well.
Yeah. And do you get that? I mean, Director of Development in part is fundraising. And I mean, on the one hand, I'm sure there's people who say, hey, STEM and the jobs of the future and, AI. And we absolutely, from a practical economic point of view, want to train kids to do this. But is there pushback on screen time and, people, that sort of, I think, legitimate concern that kids, the data is not great about not just kids, but kids especially, spending too much time on screens. And I guess you have to distinguish it the way Jean talked about it.
Absolutely. Neither one of my kids have phones.
Yeah.
Which is funny because most of us that work at CodeCrew have strict rules around screen time. I thought I would be an outlier, but it's the difference between creating the tech or consuming the tech. And I think that is what our CEO preaches, which is we're building this, we're creating it. This isn't just mindless consumption that, large corporations have you built to pull you in. This is your freedom, your creation.
We mentioned AI. It's obviously, big in the news. I'm going to one of the big journalism conferences in the fall. Online News Association, ONA, there'll be like 1,000 people there. We were looking at the programming for this 3-day conference. I think 80% of it is AI. AI in journalism, AI in graphics, the risks of AI in fact checking, just from a journalism program point of view, everything's about AI. It's a little like something you sort of kind of go, okay, we got it. Like, do we really need 80% of the conference to be about AI? But it is what it is. How does that impact at the level of kids you're working with? How are they interacting, if at all, with AI? And how has it changed what you all do in terms of your training programs and your learning and so on?
Sure. We start with K-12, right? So you use the word responsible, right? So for us, it's letting them to see how responsible you have to, just like anything we use, whether you get in a car, you use whatever thing, we got to be responsible. So it's not the fear mongering or the afraid of being technology driven around AI. That's literally what we focus on as well. It's for them, again, being exposed and understanding how it works at an early age, then you become more responsible. Even in our own workforce, our work areas where we use, we leverage the power of AI, because I think is the people that use AI is the one that's going to move forward versus the one that you're going to be left behind. So it's really understanding that it's a tool rather than the boogeyman. It's like, oh no, we got to stay away from, because that's how just the evolution of technology, right? We can say the same thing for the internet, how people felt about it. So it's just a new age. But we definitely are responsible and trying to get the kids to understand how to use it.
My son, again, my son should have dialed in on this, but he's been a coder now he's 27, so 5-6 years. It's transformed his work. And so he's like, look, I can have the AI do all this kind of grunt coding that I used to have to do myself while I work on the bigger problems and the kind of conceptual and the strategy and the higher level stuff. And he said, so for me, it's, massively increased his output. He said, on the other hand, I don't know where I'll be in 5 years. I don't know, maybe not, that's kind of unknown to sort of, at some point this AI he's relying on take over what he's doing. But I do think that notion that you kind of stay ahead of it and your, spreadsheets didn't get rid of accountants, right? There's still people who do layout, even though it's not done cut and paste in the way it used to be. So, but from your point of view, Ashley, AI must be a big topic if you're talking to donors or you're looking at grants or you're looking at government funding and all those uncertainties and questions, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think there's a lot of fear, too, around AI and questions like, I think that they've filled out this application using AI. What should I do? Another grantor was saying, we have this scholarship and everyone's submitting what looks like AI. And, my response is, assume it is and pick the best one. Just like when people were using, Google to write papers, look at who's using the tools and who's using them the right way. And yes, it is definitely a topic that comes up. Really, the biggest thing is people come to me and they're like, we want to partner with you. I don't know around what or how, but AI, yes, and we have, coffee and there's so much out there, right? And I could get real creative, but I have to bring the people that actually know what they're talking about in.
Right. Well, I'm going to do some housekeeping real quick. We're talking about your hackathon that's coming up, some of the other things going on, but I'll remind everyone we're here talking to the folks from CodeCrew, Ashley Weaver and Francois Mahoro. We'll be back with them in just a moment, but this is The Sidebar. I'm Eric Barnes. The Sidebar airs here on WYXR 91.7 every Thursday at 11:30. Focused on the community, arts, culture, everything in between. It's not just a radio show, though. It's one of many weekly podcasts we do at the Daily Memphian, including soon, very soon, within days, our new morning podcast, AMDM, the Memphis Grizzlies podcast with Chris Arrington and Drew Hill, and our food podcast, Soundbites, hosted by Holly Whitfield, that also airs here on WYXR every Thursday at 11. You can get all of our podcasts at the Daily Memphian site or iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. That also includes the podcast version of Behind the Headlines, the TV show we produce with the folks at WKNO every week. And all the WYXR shows, including Soundbites and Sidebar, are available at WYXR.org on the WYXR app. That includes all the shows on WYXR, talk and music, archives of them, so you can keep up with what's going on there. If you're not a supporter of WYXR, it is nonprofit, listener-supported radio, so consider becoming a member or do a one-off donation at the site or on the app. If you become a member, there's all kinds of benefits you can learn about. And if you're not a paid subscriber to the Daily Memphian, do consider becoming one. Paid subscriptions pay for a little over half of the costs of having the biggest newsroom in the area. Coming up soon in the coming weeks on the Sidebar, Casey Murley, the executive director of Overton Park Conservancy, and David Lusk is coming on another show to talk about art in his gallery. Recently, we had the folks from Young Avenue Sound on the show, as well as Carissa Husong from the Metal Museum. On Behind the Headlines this week, we've got Brent Taylor and Mark White from the state legislature talking about all kinds of things, but primarily their various proposals to change governance, I guess I would put it, at the Memphis Shelby County school system. We've also got folks from Mississippi Boulevard Church coming on, talking about their proposed new development, as well as folks from Downtown Memphis Commission, and in a special appearance, Doug McGowan and Ursula Madden together again, actually, I've never had them on the show together, but I'm really excited about it. Both from MLGW, both used to work for, what was his name? Tim Brickland. He was mayor of the city of Memphis some years ago. Recently on Behind the Headlines, we did a show on elections. We had Lee Harris and Erica Sugarman talking about the county government, and a really great show on homelessness and efforts to reduce and impact homelessness in Memphis. Last bit of housekeeping. Our small business seminar is coming up on September 18th at 3:30. We've got the folks from ZoopMed. We've also got folks from Campbell and Ford Construction, as well as David Perdue Landscaping, who started his landscaping business when I think he was a teenager. All that is at the Small Business Seminar, September 18th at 3:30. You can go to Eventbrite, search for Daily Memphian, and you will be able to get a ticket. But we are here with Ashley Weaver and Jean-Francois Mahoro from CodeCrew. Let's talk about the hackathon. July 18th and 19th. It's your, 11th annual, I think I'm looking at here, hackathon. What's a hackathon for people who don't know?
How do I describe this? So the hackathon for us, I think about the Super Bowl. So if you think about like a grand finale for us for the year, we bring kids for 3 days we had the FedEx Institute of Technology this year, and we pump it up. We do all the pep rally. We got the music going. We got the food going. But really, it's about the challenge. Just like it says hackathon, we give them an opportunity to come up with the solutions that we talked about earlier about critical thinking and providing an opportunity to show those skills. So this year's theme, we doing a hustle and code. So the hustle comes from obviously the Memphis Grizzlies, but we're doing the sports where we allow them to think about outside the box. Whether it's through sports equipment, through tracking data, matrix around athletes, like how can I leverage the power of computer science and also do something else called integrating computer components such as microbids, Arduinos. These are microcontrollers that you can enhance the equipment that you're using or even track performances to be able to do something with that. So we're asking the students to really come as a team of 5 and really get their heads going and come up with a solution.
And age groups, or what ages?
Rising 6th graders to 12th grade.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And about how many kids will be there?
So we're shooting for 200. Okay. We almost sold out. So if you're a parent, go ahead and sign up as quick as possible. But we almost sold out. We're looking to get 200 students in the FedEx Institute of Technology.
That's great. And people can learn more at, I assume, what is it? What's the address? CodeCrew's?
Code-crew.org.
Code-crew.org. And people, I'm sure there's a registration form there if they,
absolutely,
if people want to learn more or get their kids involved.
It's a free event as well.
Okay, good. Yes, thank you. You guys have summer programs that you going on too? You do summer camps with people?
We just wrapped up the summer camp.
You just wrapped up,
so which was a great month long. But we did things like virtual reality, robotics, web development, and AI with music, which we allowed them to see how AI, talking about AI earlier, how it compounds with music to be able to able to create on the music side as well. So that's again, we always want to do intersectionality to show kids that it's CS plus something else as well. Because we want them to know that they don't have to go down just the CS path, extrapolate the skills and the components of that and utilizing some of your passions that you do, such as music as well.
Well, and increasingly, I mean, everything, it seems like, has a little bit of code. AI has even exploded that more, right? I mean, whether you're using spreadsheets or you're using something to work on podcasts or video, I mean, there's just all this kind of code and those, whether or not you're coding from scratch or you're sort of trying to understand the concepts of what logic and problem solving and how do I do something creative or solve a problem faster in a new, different way using a computer, right? I mean, it sounds rudimentary, but I think sometimes code can sound like something so over there. You know what I mean? And I do love how you guys manage to make it more human and fun and interesting. Maybe it's not for everyone, but it's something people should be exposed to, it seems to me. So from... maybe I'll turn to you on this, Ashley. So how is all this funded? I assume a mix. CodeCrew is a nonprofit?
We are a nonprofit.
Okay. So give me the lay of the land on the business model for CodeCrew.
So we really are fortunate for not being too highly dependent on federal funding. So
I was about to ask that. Yeah. I mean, it's not funny.
No, it's not funny at all. But we have, it's very diversified, right? So we have our corporate partners that are making this hackathon possible. We have grants, of course, some state grants, some foundations, and we have individual donors. And then we also have a piece of revenue that comes from some of our contracts with the schools.
Okay. And But the federal funding, was there a time when you guys pursued that, or was it just always,
Well, so there was a grant that we had our eyes on, and they had our eyes on us, and and then the money is gone. Yeah. So that's always disappointing. I know a lot of foundations are stepping up. The truth is they're not going to be able to fill the gap that is rapidly growing. So hopefully that means there will be more philanthropy. That's my maybe optimistic mind, is that more people will start to see the need and give where others don't have.
And these may be out of date, but the stats I had for either of you, you mentioned this at the top, John, the percentage of students that you guys have, it's overwhelmingly kids of color. Is that right? And that's part of the mission of the organization.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially Memphis, as we know, is predominantly African American, but I would say we hit all the corners of the city. Obviously, there's more places that we pay attention to, like our Fraser community, Orange Mound, Raleigh, things like that, where students demographically don't have the access. For us, but CodeCrew, we always say, hey, you come to us, we'll make sure you have the access as well. But Memphis is holds a special place in our heart as well.
And in schools, when you're going into the schools, this is a dumb question on my part, but my kids are older. They've got computers for everyone, or it just varies by the school you're in? No school, even the wealthiest private school, will ever say they have enough of everything they want. Surely.
Right.
So how are you deal with those challenges that maybe not all the kids have computers at home to do homework and so on?
Yeah, it's interesting. Even now, we still have, obviously some families don't have access, but because of the pandemic, everybody quickly figured out how to provide those tools.
Yeah,
so
fair.
Pretty much all the schools and partners that we leverage in terms of providing a service, they do have access to the machine, the laptop, or the iPads. But we do hear from students sometimes they can't do homework because they got to share. It's one laptop for the whole family, so we understand that. But any way we can fill in the gap, we definitely do that. But most schools have the opportunity to have us with all the equipment.
What else? What did I miss? As we wind, because I could get way into there's just the nuances of the code and the kind of how you're teaching stuff. But I guess let me ask the question this way of you. You've been there since the beginning, basically. How has it changed, if at all? Besides the AI, besides technology has changed, in terms of maybe people's response to it, the interest level, has that changed? Again, technology is always going to be changing, but the dynamics of who you guys are and who's coming into the programs and the reception you get or don't get from schools or teachers and so on.
Mm-hmm. So I will say early days, we actually started at Leicester Community Center. It was like about 30 kids and it was one location, right? So we went from that to after school, where we go to different community centers, and then eventually into the schools, where now we're seeing like hundreds of students a day. But one of the biggest changes that has happened is on the state level, now you have requirement for computer science. So ears perked up. So now it's like, oh, how do we do this? And somebody was like, well, you know what? We got CodeCrew that's here in the city. So part of what we do is advocate as well for schools and on the state level as well, to really part of those coalitions that come together and say, okay, how do we strategically solve this problem? Where, again, it's all about access and make sure the kids that are born into technology, whether we want to believe it or not, they're going to have to be the one that deal with the ramification of not knowing how to be stewards of the technology that we have right now. So to me, that's the biggest change that happened since the beginning to being 10 years in now. So it's like, what does the next 10 years look like?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And how many people, how big or small is the staff of CodeCrew, and how much is volunteers, and what's that look like?
We have 16.
Yeah, about 16.
Staff or volunteers?
Full-time
staff.
Interesting enough, people do think we are large just because we do have our arm stretched, all over the place, right? And that's one of the hardest things that people find out. No, we actually are small, but we on an impact level, not just Memphis, internationally, even locally, nationally wise, we do things. So it's always amazing because we have great team members and people that really believe about the mission. And I think that's really what drives CodeCrew to still be around after 10 years.
Do you still rely on volunteers when you were a volunteer?
Absolutely. Even for the hackathon, we have opportunity for corporate, individuals, even just people in the community that want to come and give their time, mentor some kids.
Yeah.
And whether you're tech as well, we said non-tech, tech, we always have an opportunity for you to come in and give your time as well.
What does the next 10 years look like? I mean, will you go from 16 to 32 people? Will you go to that many more schools, or what? It's hard to say. I guess.
I mean, for me, I think about growing in a way that now we have always done direct programming, but really my passion right now is figuring out how do we equip teachers, parents, because it starts in the home and it goes into the school, and then next thing you know, it's taking off. So I think there's gaps that still needs to be filled. So I think for me, it's seeing the support for teachers and parents in the community.
For you, Ashley?
Well, we are working on a build out of a new space, a new headquarters, so that we can all share space together. So that is the next big thing that is on my mind, because currently the administrative staff is on the University of Memphis campus, and we have classes at Southwest, Macon and Union. We're in community centers. We're at the Pink Palace. We're all over, and When we get to Northside, we will all be under the same roof. We'll still have programming within schools, but we'll be able to be, more in touch with everything that's going on.
Yeah, and Northside, for people who don't know, is briefly
Northside Square is a mile north of here, which here is Crosstown, and it's a similar development, project. Right? It's going to have mixed housing, nonprofits, and some for-profits, and I think a small food hall. So. Yeah. No, it's Rashawn Austin, who I should always say is a board member of the Daily Memphian, but we had her on the show, and Archie Willis, and talk about that. It's interesting you talk about people think Code Crew is small. I think because I think we had Mecca on Behind the Headlines early in the first year or two. I mean, it was really early.
Yeah, he's everywhere.
And what's that?
He's everywhere.
He's everywhere. He is.
Yes,
he's everywhere.
Yes.
And he's a wonderful guy. And it was great to talk to him. And I can't remember who else might have been on that show. But I'll say this now. I mean, we have lots of people, both on Sidebar and on Behind the Headlines or in Daily Memphian, who have amazing ideas and are amazing people and start a nonprofit or a small business, and it doesn't work. And there's no shame in that necessarily. I mean, just not all these things work, or they run into changes in funding, like we talked about or whatever. To hear that, I remember when it was like 30 kids at Leicester Community Center, and to think now that you guys are all over the city and the country is pretty remarkable. So
yeah, absolutely.
I didn't realize there's that many people plus
it's a strong, mighty force, but it's just something you just touched on. Even with Mecca, like I said, I consider him my mentor, but it's people with a certain type of mindset and a heart for the city, because he's originally from here as well. So he wanted to give back to his home somewhere that gave back to him as well. And I think most of us believe that same sentiment. So it's great to have him at the top. And it trickles down. I think that's why most of, not just, I would say everybody really believe the mission of Code Crew as well.
Yeah. We're just about out of time. I always try to ask everybody, last question, the first concert you went to. Jean.
Ooh, Maxwell. Maxwell was here at the FedEx Forum.
That was the first one? Or that was the last
one?
Well,
that was the last one I went to.
Okay.
Yes,
okay, Maxwell. What was the first concert you ever went to?
I'm going to say old, but so New Edition when it came to Lander Center, because I'm not a big concert person, because I realized even when my younger days, but New Edition came to Lander Center, which unfortunately I have to remember this, but that was the night Whitney Houston passed, and Bobby Brown was on that tour, and that's how I just remember vividly. But New Edition is one of my favorite groups growing up, but it was good to go see them in person at the Lander Center.
And Ashley?
Rolling Stones.
Nice.
At the Pyramid, I was like 6. So my mom was like, "You're never going to see these guys. They're
so old.
They're so old. Like, this is probably their last tour." I was like, "Right." And then last, I don't know, but I'm going to Coldplay in a couple of weeks, so that will be my last.
That will be your last. Okay. Again, people can learn more going to code-crew.org and about the hackathon coming up, if volunteer opportunities, everything you guys are doing. But that is all the time we have this week. Thank you both very much for being here, and we will see you all next week.